Hello and welcome to another episode of Creative Appetite. Today I'm joined by my good friend Renae. She works out of the Lovers and Sinners Tattoo Artist Studio.
I'll do.
She specialises in traditional tattoos but mainly focuses on dot work and anime style. How are you doing, Renae?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I don't think I butchered that too bad, but it's all right.
Doing good.
So how long have you been tattooing for?
About 4 years and 4 months, I think. So nearly 4.5 years.
Well, that's not too bad. That's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Is that how long your apprenticeship goes for?
So apprenticeships are a little bit tricky. So it kind of depends on the studio that you work at. So it could be anywhere from 2 years, some 4 years. Sometimes as well, the owner or whoever's mentoring you will usually tell you when you're ready. So you'll honestly you'll keep producing work and they'll keep an eye on you and give you tips and tricks. And when you're pretty competent to what they think is, qualified, then they'll qualify you.
Yeah, nice. Is it, like, in the qualifying process, do you have to go through, like, a certain set of, steps to get there? Do they have to, like, check over tattoos? Or is it all on paper when you tattoo it?
So mainly with tattoos. So very early on, you'll do your drawings, you'll build up your drawings, portfolio, you'll further your portfolio. And then when your mentor thinks that you're ready, they will start putting you on skin. So when I first started, I was practicing on like those cantaloupe melons. So like those really smooth, like yellowy green melons.
Oh, yeah.
And I did a couple of those, which was kind of really funny because if you go too deep, the juices really start to come through.
And then actually starts like coming out.
Yeah, literally. So I did that for a little while, and then some people they use like the pig skin that you get from like the butchers and stuff like that. And then you start getting your friends in and you start tattooing them for like free. And then you start doing $50 tattoos and then it goes up from there and then you just keep practicing. And I guess it kind of depends who your mentor is. You might do, I think usually you kind of want to be balanced in like a lot of different styles to start.
Yeah, so when you do your apprenticeship, what is the criteria that you have to go, like be able to achieve like the base level in through all different styles?
Oh, it really depends. It's so broad. Like some places are super traditional and they will just, they'll say, okay, now we'll do some black and grey, now we'll do some traditional, focus on your lines, focus on your shading. And then they'll just, if you're competent enough to do all these kind of levels, then you'll qualify. I know there's some more modern shops now that if you're pretty early on, sometimes they'll just see the potential in a certain style that you've been focusing on. And then they'll just continue to build up your skill with that certain style. Yeah,
because I always thought that most people, like most tattoo artists, would just have that one specific style, and then they don't really deviate from that because that's what they're good at. Yeah,
it's really interesting with tattooing because sometimes it's a lot like that where it's just the one style, but I think it's more. That's just something that's kind of more recent. Like,
oh, okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's like the wild west of tattoo.
Yes.
Like, I always wondered about tattooing because I've never really known much about the industry because I feel like it's an industry that's not really spoken about unless you're involved in it.
Yeah, exactly.
So like if you were trying to grow up, like if you're growing up, and you wanted to do tattooing, it'd be so hard to find information on how to become a tattoo artist because by the sounds of it, it seems so broad and there's no one specific avenue to go down.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not like you go to uni and you study and then you're qualified. It's more, I don't know what the word is for that, more like old school, I guess.
Turn up, start sweeping the floors.
That's it. Go to a shop, show your portfolio around and hopefully they'll like your work or they might just take you on as a shop hand for a little while and they can see your dedication and then it just kind of eventuates from there.
Were you a shop hand when you first started?
Yes. I was, let me think. I think I was only in for 3 days a week to start with. And I was just cleaning the tubes. So that's not something that's not really done anymore because it's all disposable. But clean the tubes and what else is there? Answer the phones, do the emails, sweep and mop the floors. I think one of the first jobs I had was clean the fridge and clean the shelving. Yeah, it was full on.
That'd be so rank too, that fridge. It'd be so bad.
But yeah, that's just how it
Are
starts.
the tubes? Are they like the electricity tubes that you're talking about?
So the tubes that hold the needle.
Okay.
Also, God, it's been a while for me because I don't use those anymore.
Trying to remember. Break down all the parts. You're like, oh yeah, gotta go.
Yeah. They just kind of holds the needle in.
Oh, okay. That's like on the, because the old ones have like the little engines on them, eh? The little motorized.
The coil machines.
Yeah.
They've got those.
Engines.
Yeah, the coils. The
V8s.
rotaries have them. Yeah, they're a bit more.
Is it so that you don't like when I remember when I came in to get tattoos, you were using something completely different.
Yes, yeah. It's a rotary, so it's completely different, a lot quieter, runs a lot more smoother than the coil machines do. Coil machines do still pack a punch. I know quite a few artists and studios that still use coils.
They refuse to like go to the other one.
They can. Some are, they say, loyal to the coil. They love their coils, which is fantastic. I think whatever works for you is best, because I know for me, when I first started tattooing, I didn't learn on coils. I learned just on rotaries. And I thought I was missing out a little bit on kind of like the tattooing experience because I wasn't on coils. And it's something I'm actually considering to maybe pick up and learn a little bit more about, because I don't know a whole lot about the coils. Which
They seem pretty, they look heavy. Like,
Yes.
And because they're lean, like, because they're tilt, like the motor's on one side, it must sit really funny in your hand.
It's pretty heavy in your hand, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like trying to.
Whereas my machine now, it's more styled like a pen.
Yeah.
So it's very, very light and very kind of easy to use.
Because you get like carpal tunnel syndrome using a coil, wouldn't you? Because of the vibration.
I'm pretty sure it get a lot of wrist issues, and that's for sure.
Do you have you found that you've had any wrist issues from tattooing?
Not yet.
You're waiting. You're just waiting for it to
wake
up one day. Oh.
No, because of my dot work style, I'm trying to change the way I apply dot work. So I used to just sit there and do like dot manually. And one of my older rotary machines was a little bit heavier, and I'd know if I was dotting for a couple hours, I'd literally have a break and my hand is just sore because I squeeze my machine real tight. I'm just fucking concentrating.
Just white knuckle, just oh.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
That's probably why I was in so much pain when you were tattooing. Just white knuckling, pushing it in there.
Yeah, that's it.
So when you were growing up,
Yes.
is this something that you've always wanted to do, or?
No. Growing up, I wanted to be a creative writer. I got really into that. Actually, no, before that, I wanted to be a baker and do like pastries and desserts. I fell in love with cooking. And then I went for a school-based apprenticeship interview with I think it wasn't like a bakery. It was more like a bakery warehouse kind of thing.
Yep.
And they told me that you start really early. And I was like, no, I'm good. I can't do that.
It's such a...
Start real early in the morning.
It's like 3, I think they start like 3 or 2 or
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
It's
something like that.
That's ruthless. I remember when I was growing up, like just when I turned 18, in a small country town, you'd walk past the bakery, and because all the bakers were already in there baking, they would come and give you pies.
Yeah, nice.
It was the best.
Yeah.
Terrible job. Great if you're like drunk walking home.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, then after when I said no to that, I was really into creative writing. I loved writing stories. And when I finished year 12, I was like, yep, I'll go to uni and I will do that. And before I got accepted into I think it was the Sunny Coast Uni creative writing course or something. And before I accepted that, I thought about it and I was like, I don't know, this is what I want to do. So I was like, I'll just defer. I don't even think I did anything. I just didn't even touch the email. I was like, I'm not too sure. And then funnily enough, I think I was flicking through, in year 12, you got these like books, and I don't remember what they're called, but in the books they would have all these different careers and what kind of OPs you need and stuff like that. And then I saw tattoo artists because I've always loved to draw, and I was like, oh, tattooing would be really cool. But I don't like blood, so I've fainted with blood before. So I was like, how am I going to do this job?
How do you even like, I feel like you need to train yourself if you just start cutting, not cutting, that sounds real bad, probably don't do that, but like.
Just getting like, what's the word? Just used to blood, but no, I was like, nah, fuck, I can't do that. It's blood, like, no way. And it wasn't until I got my first tattoo, actually my first couple tattoos, I think even when I got that one, which was my third one, and I was looking at it, I was like, oh, there's actually not much blood involved with it. Like there is, but there's not like to the amount that will make me pass out.
It seems like from what I've seen, like when people bleed, it's very like light. There's not.
Very
It's not
minimal.
like.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
just like blood droplets, really.
Yeah.
So it's not too bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Was that? So you said that was your third tattoo?
Yes.
Did you do it yourself?
No. I got one of my friends, Daniel. He did that one for
Is
me.
Daniel the guy who owns the studio you work at?
Oh, no, that's Cree. So I used to work with Daniel at Lovers and Sinners. I think he's now at Happy Days.
Yeah.
So yeah, he did that one for me, and he's my husband's best friend, one of my husband's best friends. So before I even started, I was drawing heaps, and then Alan was like, "Why don't you talk to Daniel about it?" And I was like, "Okay, I'll give it a go." I was so nervous. I was like, "I'm going to show him." I started building like a portfolio, and I was like, "All right." I walked in there to his one of the shops he used to work at, and showed him my work, and he gave me some tips. So yeah, he really helped me kind of start my portfolio.
How does it start with the portfolio? So when you're obviously drawing, do you have to go like right back to the basics of like drawing out? I'm probably going to butcher this because I don't really know how to explain this without making it sound bad. But you know, like when you're drawing like a face, you got to draw like the circle, and then you got to put like the cross through it to make sure that it's asymmetrical or whatever. Do you have to do that when you first started? Like go right back to the basics?
Oh, not a whole lot. They definitely help. Those basics definitely help with, if you do a lot of faces and stuff like that. I think for me, which is why my portfolio was a bit shocking, was I would kind of get the image up on like the computer screen or something and just kind of freehand what I saw.
Yep.
And then, so that was really, really tricky. And it's still to this day, I find it really hard to draw faces.
Yeah. So how does it work then if you aren't following like the traditional sense and you are just taking it off? How many faces did you have to draw before you, like with your anime, because it looks so well done. It's very well structured. Again, I don't really know what the correct terminology is for that, but like it looks really well done, like very nice.
I just get heaps of references from online, follow those. Like I'm actually working on some more anime pieces and trying to make them a little bit more custom. So like learning about the different, the bodies, what's it called? The movements of the body, and with like certain arms, especially like, a lot of those anime characters are like wielding like weapons and stuff like that, and just kind of forming it to make a completely new piece, but still using those original drawings and references as a base.
What is your favorite anime?
Oh, okay. Actually, so at the moment, because I used to love Naruto back when I was younger, and I was in high school and I had the time to watch it, but because I've been so busy, it's very hard for me to pick it up again.
Adult life, can never watch your anime anymore. Yeah. Sad.
Yeah. I just finished reading a manga called Chainsaw Man, and it is one of the best things I've ever read in my life. It is so good, and the anime comes out hopefully in October. And it was really good. I love anything that's like gory and horror and violent. And it was full of it, and I was like, I'm loving this.
Is it a comic book or is it like an actual book?
So like the manga, have you read manga before? Like
Nah.
It's like almost like the Japanese style comic. So but you kind of read it like back to front. So you kind of go and then you read that way.
That sounds real trippy.
It took me a while to get used to it, but there's a fantastic app. I think it's called Shonen Jump, and it's like $3 a month, and there's heaps of anime manga to read there.
You just put on like your Kindle?
Yeah, or your iPad or whatever, I
have no idea because I don't I feel like an old person. I'm like, that old phone, just like punching with like single finger text message. I seriously don't even really watch much TV anymore.
Oh, really?
No, after because I'm so busy with the podcast and obviously other life stuff, I think I watch maybe like one episode of something a week, and then the rest of the time I'm busy doing it.
But yeah, that's fair.
But I have just got rid of a lot of video editing. I've just got a full-time editor, which is very good because I'm becoming really busy, which is great. But when you started your drawing, what was the first kind of styles that you went into? Was it anime or was it?
No, that was a little bit later. Actually, I did a lot of, I love to do like, what was it? Cartoons. So more so like Futurama and Simpsons. Tattoos I absolutely love to do. And then obviously being a apprentice, you have to kind of take in whatever like walk-ins get, whatever walk-ins you kind of get. And you kind of do heaps of different things. And I think, early on was a bit of everything. I did lots of dot work when I first started because I couldn't understand shading properly, like, with those traditional tattoos and the way that has like that nice kind of whip to it. I was still learning that. So I just stuck to dot work a bit, and then I kind of got the hang of the shading, and then I fell in love with doing traditional stuff. So I was doing a fair bit of that, and then I slowly started building up on learning how to do shading and the right colours to use and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, because you have to learn how to like mix colours together, right?
There's so many different types of ink nowadays. So usually there's like quite a range of different colours to use. But there is you have to mix your ink sometimes if you want to make that, I don't know, that green a little bit more like olivey sometimes or anything like that.
Do you find that shading's the hardest part of tattooing? Like, because I've seen some colour tattoos, especially in like Japanese style tattoos, and like if it's like a girl with like the kimono or whatever, you can see the shading changing colour the whole way up.
Yeah, that's
Do you reckon that's
tricky.
like super hard?
I guess, yeah, definitely. Like even for me, because I don't really do a whole lot of colour anymore. I still do it, but there are still some techniques with the colour shading that I'm learning, and I've been very lucky to work with quite a few different artists over the last 4 years, and I still meet new artists today that bloody inspire me, and I'm just like, wow, I want to do shit like that. It's so cool. But I don't think lines are one of the hardest things with tattooing.
Keep them straight.
Keep them straight or get that nice curve. Especially with like the anime stuff, because if you're doing like an eye or even anything like with faces or specific features, if your line goes a little bit too far off the stencil, it can alter the tattoo completely.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine, like, because it is so like fine detail when it comes to anime because of the way that the shape of their eyes and like how they shoot off, you would not want to really muck it up when you're putting it on someone because it'd be so noticeable.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, because a lot of like black and white, I feel like you could probably just get away with if you make a little bit of a smudge or like the line's not too straight, you could probably just cover it back up because it's black and white. Where like when you're doing specific like fine line tattooing, it would be so much harder.
It's very stressful, yeah.
There seems to be this like insurgence of small tattoos but like really fine and like there's so much detail.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you know how they do that? Is that through like really fine needles?
Yeah, so definitely fine needles, the ink. So there's a lot of fine line work that's going around that's more done in grey wash, so just diluted black. And sometimes it looks great when it's like first done, but if it heals, sometimes it heals a bit too light. There's also like you can use just your single needles, and they're very tricky, I think. I haven't really used any of those single needles before just because they're very delicate and they're very easy. It can blow out if you...
snap.
Not really snap, just more so... what's the word I'm looking for? It's just... Like it can... What's the word I'm looking for?
Like small movements could like make it...
It can, yeah. It's very easy to like... It can blow out under the skin. I think that like kind of thing.
The ink will like blow out underneath the skin.
Yeah. So it's just, you have to be really careful with it.
Is there many fine artist tattoos on the coast?
There is quite a few. I don't know their names. I can't think of their names off the top of my head.
They're all your friends here sitting here listening, just going, "Oh, it's cool.
Thanks for that.
It's cool. Sorry, don't worry about it. It's all right."
No, I work with a guy called Adam. He does some beautiful, like, he does a lot of like the dot work style as well. He does some super fine line work. And there's also an artist at Ocean Ink in, goodness, I forgot where it is. It's not the Amundi one. Sorry guys, I forgot where you are.
Mate, they're going to be so angry.
Connor, who works there, he does some beautiful fine line work too. We've also got Murphy Campbell, White Tiger Tattoo, does some absolutely gorgeous, super fine stuff.
It's definitely a new trend I see, especially on Instagram. You see it like coming up everywhere, which is pretty crazy to think that they can make something so small, such fine detail.
Yeah.
Or like the hand tattoos now that chicks are getting, like the dot, like the stick and poke.
Yeah.
I feel like that would hurt. That would not be a...
Yeah. I've tattooed a few fingers quite a while ago now, but yeah.
Did you do stick and poke?
No, never did.
Never done it?
No.
There's a chick in Dublin who does it.
Okay.
But like that's a whole thing.
Yeah, definitely. It's a whole technique in itself.
Yeah.
Which I've
Well, I come from like a traditional like Māori background from in New Zealand, and the traditional style tattoo is done by stick and poke.
Yeah.
And I'm way too scared to go there and like get it done.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I don't think that's not for me. And I've seen there's this one particular artist, and he does like full body, like from the waist down, all stick and poke.
Yeah.
It's like 16 hours or something. You got to sit there and just get smashed. Oh my God. It's like,
no, thank you.
It's not for me. It's too much. I always find it, when you were studying like through your apprenticeship, did you have to like learn about all of those different styles?
Not so much. I think for me that came a little bit later, doing my own kind of research. So obviously there's, doing like all the research with just, I think for me earlier on, it would be more just about the technique of how to actually tattoo. And then the different styles came a little bit later. And what makes a Japanese tattoo pop, and then what makes a traditional, and then what makes, black and grey realistic tattoo and all that kind of thing.
And is it through TAFE?
No. So with tattooing, you just got to build up a portfolio and then go into a shop and show them your work, get some tips, and either they might be looking for an apprentice or they might not, and then you just keep going. And until you find an artist there that will be like, yeah, I like your work, I'll take you on, or, oh, yep, you can help clean up the shop and see where it goes.
It's so unknown.
Yeah.
Like, like a traditional style job of like being a mechanic or something like that, you do like 4 years at TAFE, everything's like structured out for you. But it sounds like as a tattoo artist, you just go in there and hope for the best, and hopefully someone will just pick you up.
Yeah, definitely.
Which I guess would make the industry hard to get into then, because
definitely, yeah.
Especially because there's so many different types of like different personalities in the shops, and like different people have different things that they're looking for, and especially in a place like the Sunshine Coast where I don't think there's that many tattoo artists or like tattoo shops. Sorry,
there's quite a few now.
Is
compared
there?
to what they used to be? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But
when you first started, was there a lot?
Yeah, I think there was quite a few, and then as the years went on, there were more shops popping up here and there. But I think compared to like 10 years ago, there wasn't as many.
And what's the overall like consensus when it comes to going into a tattoo shop asking to get a job? Like, did you have to go to a few different ones? Or?
Yeah, I went to a couple. I think for me, I was actually working at a cafe at the time, and I started at Tattoo Junction in Noosa Junction, and I was working at a cafe along that street called Canteen, and I was there, I don't know how long I was there for, but one of the girls I was working with, she had just gotten a tattoo from Tattoo Junction, and she was like, oh, they were talking about how they're looking to hire more artists. Why don't you go in there with your portfolio and see if they'll take you on? And I did, and they did, which was really lovely. But it was funny because about 3 years prior to that moment, I actually went in there with my portfolio and asked, and they weren't looking, but Carl, the owner, gave me some fantastic advice about how to improve my portfolio. So for example, instead of sticking to one style or one type of medium, is just expand it. So I did, I'm trying to remember my portfolio now, my goodness. I did some dot work stuff, some like mandala-y stuff. There was some traditional, like some flowers. I did with watercolor paint. There was also just with like Prismacolor pencils, which is a really nice colored pencil. All different kind of styles.
Do you still have that portfolio?
Yes. It's hiding in my house somewhere.
Just push
I
it
like
down.
to get it out every now and again. Like I was cleaning, quite a while ago now, cleaning my cupboards, and I found it, and it was really kind of refreshing to kind of flick through it and just see how far I've come.
Yeah,
as an artist.
Do you have to then do like another portfolio later on down the track to obviously show customers what you do?
So, it all just, Instagram became such a big thing. So I don't know many shops that actually have handheld portfolios in it anymore.
Yeah, I was about to say, I feel like Instagram's just taken over.
Yeah,
and
literally.
everyone just jumps on and checks your
Facebook and Instagram. Yep. So that's what a lot of people do, just come in, and we usually go, yep, take some business cards, all our Instagrams are on it, you can check us out, or Facebook or whatever.
I definitely feel like having social media these days makes it so much harder for industries, I guess like tattooing, to like really like, do you find it hard to find customers for yourself just because there's so much out there? And if there's like heaps of different artists on the coast that might be similar to what you're doing, do you find it hard to like compete against other other tattoo studios?
I wouldn't say compete. I would say it's just how do I word it?
Start calling out all the tattoos.
No. I guess I've never thought of tattooing as a competition. I guess I've met quite a few artists that do similar styles to me. I've been tattooed by a few of them, and it's just an exciting opportunity to learn how to further myself as an artist. So I have a wonderful clientele, and I'll have lots of clients that go to different artists that do very similar styles to me, and it's fantastic because it's just interesting to see how, like, sure, I do anime, but there's quite a few other anime artists out there, but they apply their technique a lot differently to me. And people come to me because they see the way that I do it and they quite like that.
It probably sounded like a loaded question. People are going to be thinking I was trying to like get something out of it. I wasn't trying to do that at all. I was just trying to just see what it was like in the industry. Because I guess at the end of the day, it's an expression of your art.
That's it.
Like just like painting or anything like that. So I don't think you'd necessarily be competing because it's just whatever the customer is looking for at the time.
Yeah.
Which is what I did when I was looking for like tattoo artists. I just kept scrolling through until I found someone that was like, I was like, yep, that works. What do I try to get?
Yeah, that's it.
So I guess it's not like other industries where you are competing against people, I guess, like in retail and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Have you dived into like painting and like canvas painting and stuff like that?
Yes, I do a lot. Oh, I need to do a lot more. I do just painting with like watercolors. That's quite fun. So usually the best way that we do it for like making flash sheets and stuff like that is you get all your designs. Like, it's another thing, using iPads. That's a great tool that's been introduced over the last few years that's making drawing, like it's taking drawing to a new level. But even before iPads, you do all your sketches on paper, and then you get your trusty light box out, and then so you put your flash or your sketches down on top of this light box, and then your good paper on top of it, and then you just kind of trace. Yeah. Usually using Sharpies or whatever kind of ink pens you like. And then you just paint that. So with watercolors, it's great because you can just apply your colour and then you can just kind of fan it out with the water. And it's almost similar to tattooing, especially with the traditional, because you get those whips out. Yeah. So it's great to like get control, learn control with your hand.
Is that over the box is what you're describing then? Or
so the light box mainly just to get your good copy onto the paper. So it's like, I don't know how to explain it. And
with the iPad now, can you just maybe elaborate a little bit more as to why it's a lot easier for tattoo artists these days rather than maybe putting something over the light box?
Yeah, so with the iPads, it's pretty much like your own little handheld light box. You can do your sketches on there, and there's an app called Procreate, which a lot of tattoo artists use. And you can get all of your references, and then you can do your sketches, and then you can just make a new layer, do your what's the word? More like your solid lines in, which is great for like the stencils. And if you need to make changes to the piece, so for example, if I've got a client in who wants this part of the tattoo a bit smaller, instead of redrawing the whole thing, you can just, select that part, make it smaller, and it's just a great time saver.
So with the iPad, is it Canva, the app that you use?
Procreate. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So it's kind of like a Photoshop, but I could never understand Photoshop. So it's like it's
complex.
Yeah, it's a really, I don't know how to describe it. It's just a fantastic tool to use.
And then when you first started, obviously that wasn't available. So what other tools have progressed since you've been tattooing? Like obviously, I would say the coils, but because you already started on the rotaries, that kind of wasn't really a thing. Is there anything else that you use now that has made your life so much easier through technology?
That's a very good question. I'm trying to think. iPad's pretty much one of the top ones. But yeah, I think just using the iPad and then
It's just like a couple of your iPad, that's it.
Instagram, you know, social media has just blown up over the last few years. It's
just crazy. Social media is insane. Like you can literally find anything on Instagram, like any tattoo artist you want. You can go all over the world, literally just scrolling through your phone and you're in your bed.
Yep.
I find that so bizarre.
Yeah.
No wonder the older generation don't understand. It's even for me, like I don't know when like the iPhone came out for you, but I remember like the first iPhone. It was this shitty little like bubble looking thing.
Yeah.
And everyone didn't understand it. And now we're in like 13. I think it's like iPhone 13. And they come so far. Like you can literally buy like iPhone 13 or even other brands, and they're the same quality of photos as you'll get in like a Sony professional film like camera.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I find is insane.
Yeah.
Is that so now that we just went a bit of sidetrack. What was your first tattoo?
It's on my hip. It's like, you know, the Om symbol?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's about that big, just on my hip.
Did you do it yourself?
No. I think I got a gift voucher from my auntie for my 18th birthday, and it was for a studio, I think somewhere in the Gold Coast. And yeah, I had drawn it like a bajillion times on paper because I wanted to draw it and then to copy it. And I spent so long drawing it. And then, went in and got it done, and it was an interesting experience.
How's the pain threshold?
It was so much better than what I thought it was going to be. I was very surprised. I was literally remember lying there shaking. There's a guy in the chair next to me getting like, I don't know how he's getting his sleeve done, and he's just laughing at me because I'm lying there like shaking, like
just hanging on,
waiting.
Just like,
you know, I was like, what's this going to be like? And then I didn't realize that, you know, with tattooing, it's a very on again, off again kind of motion. So like you feel the needle hit the skin, and then once the needle's off the skin, the pain's done, and then it's very repetitive. But I just kind of thought I'd be lying there for like an hour with just this consistent pain, and it wasn't until I actually got it done I was like, oh, it's not like that at all. And it was a lot nicer than what I was expecting.
I suck at tattoos. I just like tense up. My body's just like, oh. And your hands get like all clammy.
All clammy, yeah. That doesn't go away ever.
I don't know. Do you I remember when I came in to get tattoos done, I think it was Adam, the bald guy. Oh, what's his name?
That would have been Daniel?
Maybe. He has like the Ranger beard.
Yeah, that's Daniel.
I don't really
yeah,
know how
yeah.
else to pronounce. Sorry, mate. I wasn't trying to insult you at all. Sorry.
No,
I remember when I was in there, he was literally tattooing his own knee.
Oh,
so,
was that then?
So
yes.
calm, just like no flinching at all. Just like, yeah, this is like he was literally.
Yeah,
it looked like he was drawing on paper.
Yeah.
I was like, how's this guy?
I don't know how he did that because knees suck.
I know. That's what I was like watching him. I was actually impressed. I was like,
Yeah.
now I kind of feel a bit silly for even like flinching at any type of pain. He's just there like so calm.
Yeah.
Do you think that the more tattoos you get, the less, like the more accustomed you come to the pain?
No. I'm turning 27 this year, and every time I get tattooed now, it feels worse. And I'm like, what the hell's going on?
That's what I thought. I like had a few tattoos. I was like, oh, I'm older now. I should be able to handle the pain. And then when I come in to get it on the inside of my ankles,
yeah.
I was like, this is not what I signed up for. I was like, this is actual.
It's crap.
It's not fun.
No.
Where would you say the worst, like the most painful tattoo is that you've got?
I'm getting my back done. That's pretty damn painful.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought it'd be chill.
No.
Because there's so much surface area.
There's certain parts of the back, so I find like anything along like the sides here, not too bad. Just anything that's on the spine is just like
where all your nerves are?
Yeah, it's just anything on the spine is just, I've tattooed people on their backs before and they were fine, and I was like, what? Okay. So I wasn't too stressed, but then when I started getting it done, and it's a big back piece I'm working on, so it's very painful, and I've started using like numbing agents. And that's helped so much. I've never used numbing cream before until got my back going, and I was like, all right, let's numb it up. Like,
I wonder what other tattoo artists right now listening are like sitting there going, I feel your pain.
Yeah. I think there's so many tattoo artists, when they get tattooed, they'll use numbing cream for themselves.
Do you feel like it's a prerequisite that you have to have tattoos if you want to be a tattoo artist?
When I walked into Tattoo Junction for the first time, so this was before I went in there and got accepted to work there, one of the first things he told me was you should get more tattoos. I think I only had this one, maybe these two.
Killing
think.
it.
Yeah.
Sleeves.
So he was like, get more tattoos. I was like, oh, I can do that easy. Then again, there's some, there are artists out there that don't have any tattoos. So,
Really?
yeah, I don't know their names. I saw one literally this morning. I was like, oh, he's got no tattoos.
I've always wondered that. I've always wondered, it's like a question I've always asked myself every time I see a tattoo artist, because they're always like just covered in tattoos.
Yep.
I'm like, I wonder if it's just a prerequisite. It kind of makes sense, I guess, if you're tattooing someone, you should probably have tattoos
Yeah,
yourself.
exactly, yeah.
But then I was like, maybe there's like those rogue people out there who just refuse, who are like,
Yeah, definitely.
fighting authority, don't want to just conform to getting tattoos.
Yeah.
Because because I guess, do you really need to have tattoos to be a tattoo artist, considering that when you do tattoos, you're learning on pig skin and then you do it on your friends anyway?
Some people have actually earlier on tattooed themselves. I'm pretty sure Jaden, our apprentice, he tattooed himself. I don't know if it was maybe it was one of his first tattoos. I could be wrong. I'm sorry, Jaden. I don't remember. He might have tattooed himself first, but in the studio, of course. But not in his backyard.
Near the clothesline, just
ripping tats. Yeah.
I feel like I'm going to get in so much trouble through tattoo artists for even like all these questions probably going to sound so whack, and they're like, this guy just has no idea what he's talking about, which is true. I don't understand, but that's the whole point of getting people on here.
Yeah.
What would you say is the most painful tattoo that you've ever had?
The back. We spoke about.
Oh yeah, sorry. Why did I ask that question?
Actually, you know what? It's the back, and then it was my knee. My knee, I hated.
Why did I ask that
so
question?
much.
That's the first time I think I've ever double backed on a question.
That's okay.
Sorry about that. What is your back piece, by the way?
It's a big panda with some bamboo and some flowers as well.
Yeah, right. Is it like an anime style, or is it like a?
No, it's more neo-traditional. So, do you know Sam Clark? No?
No.
No. He's fantastic artist. He works out of his private studio in Noosa North Shore.
Actually, no, I do know. I'm pretty sure I follow him on Instagram.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, no, I'm gonna look. But I'm pretty sure, yeah, I follow.
Yeah. I've been following him before I started tattooing, and I was like, oh, I'd love to get a piece by him one day. And then I was like, oh, screw it, I'll get him to do my back. And I'm 2 sessions in. He said roughly 10 full day sessions. So I'm 2 sessions in.
Is a full day like 8 hours?
It can differ. Depends. Sometimes 4 to 6, 7 hours.
That's a long time.
It's very long.
And when you're doing a tattoo for that long, do you have to like keep up your sugars or?
Like as the artist or as the?
No, as the person getting the tattoo.
Yeah, most definitely.
Because do you lose nutrients because you're like sweating and like
you're
clenching
sweating,
so much, and
you're losing so much electrolytes. So usually sugary drink, Powerade, even just a bottle of water, and some lollies is always great. Especially because sometimes I know for me when I get my back done, I hate knowing that I don't know, eating a big lunch then lying on my stomach for a couple more hours. So I usually just snack throughout the day and bring little snacky foods and some lollies, and that usually keeps me going. Would
you say Sam Clark is like one of your inspirations?
Oh, most definitely.
Like for now, obviously, who was your inspiration when you first started?
Oh my goodness. Before I started tattooing, Kirk Jones, who I'm not sure where he's working at the moment. I think I got tattooed by him in Victoria. I don't know if he's still there, but he did this girl on me. And I found him through a tattooing magazine, which I don't even know if you can get them anymore. So those magazines with lots of tattoos in them. And I saw him and I was like, wow, his work is absolutely beautiful. So to be able to meet him and get tattooed by him was just so crazy. And then I kind of started, I remember asking him about how he got into the industry and all that kind of stuff.
Where do you think your art's going to go? Now, do you think you will just focus more on anime style? Because now that's what you're kind of shifting into?
Most definitely. Dot work, I'm absolutely loving. And I find so much, I guess, I love tattooing, but the joy is starting to come out a lot more with my dot work and my anime pop cultures and movies. I love it.
That's so good.
So I definitely want to steer more that direction. I still do traditional tattoos, But yeah, I'm falling in love with doing anime and cartoons because I grew up with TV and stuff like that. Absolutely loved it.
So you've been so it sounds like you've been creative like the whole way through your life, like from drawing and
yeah, most definitely.
Any other type of creative styles that you've been like you worked on when you were growing up?
Ooh, drawing, painting. My mum's a lovely artist.
Shout out to you, Mum.
Shout out to Mum. So grew up with art ever since I was a kid. There was always, when you go to restaurants, there was always colouring books and pencils and blank paper that we would just draw at. It was going to the park and like drawing the trees and drawing all that stuff and using oil pastels, paints, mosaicing. We even did heaps of that.
What's that again?
Like the shattered like glass and stuff that you kind of
Oh,
glue to make a piece.
Yeah, like that. Yeah. There's this really cool street artist, and what he does is he finds like holes in the side of the road, and he literally puts like colourful tiles and like fills the hole full of tiles.
That's cool.
I was like, that is probably like one of the craziest like creative concept I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I don't even know where he's. I think he's from like Europe or something. But just when you said like that mosaic thing, I was like, oh, that's that guy that does that.
Yeah.
When you were growing up, like, so I don't want to like. Obviously, it sounds like your family were very supportive of your creative ideas
for sure.
and like allowing you to like. I was like, if you say no, this could be so.
No. Yeah, always supported with creative. I think when it came to tattooing, though, it was a little bit different. I know Mum was a lot more on board than Dad was. Dad was it was a little bit harder to kind of like, oh, this is what I want to do, old school Italian. He was very like, he doesn't really like tattoos. He doesn't like my tattoos. He loves my tattoos that I do, just not when I get them on me.
Sounds like classic Italian old school dad. No, it's fine what you do, but just don't get them on yourself.
Yeah. No, absolutely. No, it's been very amazing to watch him kind of, how do I put this? Change his kind of ideals on the tattooing industry through me. And I think it wasn't until when I was at my first shop, it was all girls at one point. And he kind of came in and he was looking around and he was like, oh, this is really nice. Like, oh, and all girls here. Like, he was kind of taken back. I guess he kind of expected like that old school kind of bars on the windows kind of thing. And I think that was kind of the point where he was like, oh, okay. And then he saw my work and how much I love to do what I do. And people were buying prints and buying merchandise. And I was starting to get a strong clientele and getting booked out. And then he was like, oh,
That's so good.
But he's always been supportive. I think it's just getting his head around the actual tattooing side of things.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. Like that old school generation, like even for myself growing up, like if I told my dad I was going to be a full-time podcaster, he'd probably be like, what? Like he would just be, he wouldn't understand. And I think that's like one of the things I'm trying to do with this podcast is like break the stigma of like being creative is still an actual job. And
for sure.
It's like if you want to be creative, it's like some families aren't very supportive of it. So it's like makes me really sad to think that there's kids out there that want to be creative and are trying to get their parents on board, but then they're getting shut down at like the early stages. Like the first stage is like obviously going to your parents going, oh, I want to do this and that. And they're like, no, like you're going to go and get a trade and hate your life. And I think that's so sad to think that there's going to be people out there that are lost. So I'm trying to provide a platform for people to like listen to get
for sure.
people like you on so they can know that like they can do it too kind of thing.
Oh, definitely.
I think it's so important. But it's so funny to like get creatives on and like hear what their parents think about all their different like I had a friend Perry on, and he's from a Kiwi family, and he was telling me when he was like telling his parents he had to like full gear up for it, like, so he had to make sure they had all these videos. He's a videographer, so he made all these videos and made sure he pretty much had like a full file to like send them and show them, because they would have just been like, you're just a bum, like you're not doing anything with your life.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's just bizarre. I don't know. I just find it so fascinating to think like the two difference in like worlds.
Yeah, for sure.
So now that you are now that your dad's supportive, is he going to get some tattoos himself?
I've been trying to tattoo him. I don't think it's ever going to happen. He's made jokes about it, and I'm like, don't joke with me, man. I will take you to the tattoo studio and we'll do it like now. Come on. No. I'm still hoping to get mum on board. That's going to take a bit of effort as well. But I don't think Dad will.
Just straight
Maybe
up.
one day, man. One day he might surprise me, but
What do you reckon you would get if he was to get a tattoo?
I don't know. I was like, get my name, and he's like, no. And I'm like, okay, what about a little? So he's a helicopter engineer. I'm like, get something with helicopters. That'd be sick. And he goes, no, I don't want that. And I don't know. It could be anything.
That's still pretty creative being a helicopter engineer though.
Yeah,
Like, you still got to
definitely.
use your brain and like come up with different concepts as to get. Well, depends. I guess it depends what field he's in. But has he done that his whole life?
Yeah, pretty much. I think he was in the Air Force when he was, I want to say 15, very young.
Yeah.
Air Force, and then working pretty much straight on from that.
This is, I don't know if this question, sometimes when I try to ask questions, I go this full roundabout way and I'll probably get halfway through and figure out I can ask it an easy way. But do you think that from him, like being an engineer and then obviously having you as a child has made, like when you, like, because anime tattoos are like drawings are like so specific and analytical, do you think that he's like passed down these genes onto you to like allow you to be like more precise with your drawings? So like for instance, like this is just don't shoot me, tattoo artists, because I'm talking about traditional tattoos, but it seems like traditional tattoos you got a bit more room for error, where with these anime tattoos you don't have room for error. So do you think that like through his brain being so analytical, that's like passed on to you and now you're like that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense.
That was a full roundabout way of just asking, like,
that's a very good point. Like, I'm not too sure on that one. I wouldn't
The reason
know,
why I think about this because I try to think deep into like people's psyches and like where it's come from, especially like the subconscious mind and how it influences people without them even knowing.
Yeah.
So for example, I'll try make this make sense. So for me, growing up, I did a lot of creative stuff like through photography and like all these different experiences like acting and heaps of different stuff like that. And then my mum's always been like somewhat creative and being like the free spirit kind of person. But then my dad has like been more structured and like got to do it this way, blah, blah, blah. And I think and we weren't like, our family were kind of broken. So I didn't really get a lot of that, but I still think it's just come subconsciously just through like growing up in like your DNA, I guess, so to speak. So I was just, do you think that's like similar for you in some of the way you create?
Probably more through mum, I think, because, watching mum spend days and weeks and months even on these beautiful like canvases, and then, you go in one day and it looks completely different because she's like, oh, I don't like that, I'll change it up a bit. So I think watching mum create her art and how she's very precise, I think that's kind of, I've fallen into that, making sure like, I look at it and then I'm like, oh, I'll change it a little bit. Is that what you meant?
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, sorry.
I think definitely
that
through
is
mum.
not going to make any sense to anyone. They're like, what are you trying to talk? It's just more about the subconscious mind is what I'm trying to refer to.
Yeah.
And how, without you even knowing, you can, like, you start doing these things.
Oh, absolutely.
The only reason why I'm talking about it is became very apparent to me when I started doing this podcast. There's like all this different stuff that like I'd do an episode and I'd start thinking about it. I'm like, I would have never done any of that if I didn't like, all these things didn't stem from like other people's experience, like my parents' experiences, my own experiences, and like without you even knowing, subconsciously all this stuff just starts to like happen.
Yeah.
And it's just, so like when you were growing up, it's like maybe when you were drawing, without you even knowing, you subconsciously wanted to be a tattoo artist, like something like super bizarre like that. I'm not saying that's what happened,
but no, it can definitely, definitely.
It's just
trippy.
like this
Yeah,
weird, like trippy. I don't know. These are the thoughts that goes on in my head. So people are like, "Oh, you're crazy." So don't worry. So, what's next? Do you think that you would hold like a art show or something for your like prints?
Not so much, I don't think. Because I've been fairly consistent with work and quite busy, a lot of my spare time is drawing and preparing for clients. So I don't think I'll do any art shows besides conventions. I'm very keen to. I think I've got the Australian Tattoo Expo in Brisbane. That's coming up in July, I believe. And there's also one in Southeast Queensland Tattoo Show, which we're doing as well. So it's almost like you're showing your art, but you're like tattooing live. And then, of course, you've got your prints so people can look at your prints and your stickers and your business cards and have a chat and that kind of thing.
Oh, this is what I was going to ask. I was like, So I'm fascinated to know about the difference in like gender in the tattoo scene? Because when I was growing up, it seemed like there was a lot of males, like it was a male-dominated industry.
For sure, yep.
But now it seems like there's heaps of females, and like how does that even, like, how were you a part of that? Like, did you see the big shift, and like did you get any flack when you were joining?
No, I was very lucky and I was very blessed to the studio I started at. They had a female tattooer there, Courtney. She'd been there for like over 10 years, I think, when I started. So I didn't really cop that kind of, I guess you could say, you know, that stigma. But, you know, unfortunately there have been female artists out there and female apprentices that have been, how do I put this? I guess their gender has affected their job, which is horrible to think about. I was very lucky that I didn't have to deal with that kind of behaviour, but unfortunately it has happened. But yeah, it just drives us to keep pushing forward and really, because we can, you know, prove what we've got.
Yeah, is it like the age-old argument of like guys can do it better than girls? Is that what the whole thing was about? Or is it because the only reason why I'm asking, because like obviously in other industries, like I don't know, maybe like construction or something like that, the age-old argument would be that guys can do it better than girls because guys are more manly, blah 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 blah. So I have no idea about the tattoo industry. So was it like something similar, like they couldn't draw as well, or was it like?
I think it was just because with an apprenticeship, it was quite hard work. With like, you know, you were just doing. There was like there was the physical of like cleaning, but there was, I guess there's kind of banter as well sometimes between like male tattoo artists. I know, like it's hard for me to kind of explain because like I said, I didn't really have to experience that.
Yeah. I guess you don't really want to speak on other people's stories if you don't. Like, you didn't really see it yourself.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
which is fair
exactly.
enough. Like,
I know there's a lot of probably female artists out there that have experienced that and have learnt a lot from that. And yeah, it's.
But do you think it's bad now, or do you think it's kind of like shifting, like where it's not such a
like gender
issue? Yeah, I guess so.
Definitely not. It shouldn't be an issue. Like,
yeah, like
if that's what you mean, like.
Yeah, or just more not. Do you think it's like shifted, like that old style, like old mentality is like kind of moved on now,
definitely.
where people are just like, oh, whatever, like who cares?
Exactly, most definitely.
Because there's so many there's just talented humans.
Yeah, talented people out
I feel like this whole gender war thing is so stupid. And the fact that it still goes on, like I still experience it sometimes, just in other areas, and I'm like, how the hell are people still like worried about that? Like, why is it still I don't know. I think it's stupid. It's just like, either you're really good or you're not. Like, I don't think it matters either way. It's like, it shouldn't be. It's like the same thing about like if your parents were like not supportive of you being creative. It's like, imagine not being supportive of a female because she's just a female, but you have no idea that she could have been like the next best tattoo artist of the whole world. It's like you just lost, like, I don't know, you just shut down someone's dreams for no reason, and you have no idea what their potential could be. Yeah. That's why I don't know, I think everyone should just lift everyone up and just be like, if someone's got a good idea, just let them go with it, like, and support them.
Yep, 100%.
But it sounds like you had a pretty good run.
Yeah, I was very lucky. I'm very blessed to have had a very comfortable, strong start in this industry. I mean, obviously there's your hard times, but there was a lot more positive ones. Yeah. All right, let's talk about something exciting. When you did your first tattoo, what was it? How did it go? It was on my, so my first tattoo was a skull. This was first on human skin. I'd think on melons it was just like skulls and playing around with shading. It was a skull with two chef knives overlapping like that. And it said, cook till death. And it's on my now husband, who was chefing at the time. He doesn't chef anymore. So yeah, it was, and he's got a chef hat on this little skull. So there's this little black and grey skull on his ankle. Wait, so you tattooed, your husband is the first person you tattooed on? Yes. I want to see this tattoo. Yeah. Is it good? Would you rate it? What would you rate it out of 10? Oh, I don't want to even want to rate it. It was just, it's no, not like that. It's like no. Real bad. I guess it turned out better than what I was expecting, but I still look at it and I'm like, oh, that's a bit wonky, or, you know. But as anything, you learn from what you've done. So it's always good to see that as a reminder and be like, oh, okay, I know how I could have done that better. But yeah, he was happy for me to like do whatever on him. So
How do you handle like doing a bad tattoo? Because I've always wondered, like, if someone does a bad tattoo and then they walk and like the customer walks out and you know it was a bad tattoo, but they obviously if it's real bad they're gonna know, but like, how do you handle that mentally? You're like, shit, I've just put this thing on someone.
Therapy. I shit you not.
Alcohol?
Therapy is no, not alcohol. No. So something I've been learning is what I see when I create, you know, obviously any little mistake, any little flaw, I can see it like bang on. And then I, you know, would get real upset at myself. And it's something I'm still working on, because I did struggle for a very long time with the concept of mistakes are okay because of the fact it was on someone's bodies permanently. I haven't done anything too drastic. There's been obviously earlier on, and, you know, as the years go on, you still make mistakes. But as seeing it as like a learning curve, and, you know, not completely thinking you're a shit artist or anything like that based on like one little line that may have gone a little bit too further off the stencil that the client doesn't even know it's there. It's because you've seen it, because you know, you have a idea of what it was going to look like in your head, and if you produce it and you're like, I could have done that so much better, and then that's where that kind of comes in.
What's the support like in a tattoo studio? If you do a bad tattoo and then the customer obviously leaves, is it a good support network of like
absolutely.
people, like where you're like, oh shit, I just like screwed that up, and they're like, it's all right, and like you all get to sit down and like talk about.
Yeah, for sure. So there's been times where a client has left and I'm like kind of a little bit sad, because I'm like, damn, I wanted to do it this way, but I don't know, this happened. And I would talk to one of the artists that I was working with and I'd show them and be like, that looks great. Or, oh, what happened? Or I see what you've done there, but what you need to do now is do this or do that for your next tattoo. And then you just hope never to make that mistake again. But the client has left, and what you've produced for them, that's all that they kind of know. So I feel as artists, as creators, we're so hard on ourselves because we are our worst critic, and we will always be, because we have these ideals of perfection, and perfection doesn't exist. So, you know.
That's how I feel all the time.
Yeah.
Even when I like come in here and do this podcast, I'll ask a question like I did before, and I'm like, I probably wouldn't have asked that question. Like, that was probably not. It's just so funny how like self-critical you can be.
Oh, absolutely. Every single day. It's, to be honest, like, I will look at a tattoo I've done, even a tattoo I absolutely love, and I will stare at it until I can find something wrong with it. And it's crazy. It's something that I think is almost necessary to better yourself as an artist, as a creator with any kind of field.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, it's interesting to think, like, so what's your process when you do make a mistake? Do you like have notes and you're like, all right, I did this, I did that, I'm going to go now work on that on like maybe some paper or like
so
on
I've
your melons
actually, one of the artists I work with, Eddie, he gave me this wonderful advice to have a little book and write down the tattoo you did, the date that you did, and whatever you use. So maybe needles or the volts with your machine or anything like that. And you jot it down, and then you see how it heals. And it comes back healed perfect. You can be like, sweet, I know I can apply that for another tattoo. If it healed a bit too light, you know, oh, I need to do this. So that's something I've definitely been doing lately, is recording down my tattoos. Not all of them, just ones that I'm like, you know, still learning different techniques with or anything like that. So that's probably definitely a good thing.
No, he's good. It's just interesting because it's just an industry. I don't think a lot of people know about the tattoo industry. It seems like it's such a underdog industry unless you're involved in it directly. Like, to find out a lot of information about it, I'm sure you can like look on the internet and find out where it originates from. And what's his name? Jerry?
Sailor Jerry.
Sailor Jerry. He's the guy who started the traditional tattoos. Is that right?
Yeah, he's
been
around for a while. Yeah,
Did you find inspiration from some of his work? Or
Oh yeah, absolutely. There was a lot of I think one of my earlier flash shoots was just Sailor Jerry redraws, so just redrawing some of his flash and then tattooing that and learning about the traditional colours and lines and stuff like that as well.
what is the Can you dive into a bit more about the traditional colours and what what's the word I'm thinking of? Like, what is a traditional colour in the traditional sense?
With traditional, I guess, just your bold colours, I find. So, like, I've got these set colours I always use, like a certain, just like a really nice red, and then you've got this just a really deep yellow, and then greens, and sometimes you might have two types of green, so darker for your darker shades, and then your lighter green over it for your lighter ones. I think one thing that's really amazing with like traditional tattooing, even tattooing in general, is people pushing the limits with the style. So obviously there's some artists out there that will create a traditional tattoo but using, I don't know, I wouldn't say pastels, maybe even just like more browns and greys and all that kind of stuff, and it's a bloody fantastic looking tattoo, but it's just different to like, you know, those Sailor Jerry style kind of thing.
Yeah. There's so many different styles out there too now. It's pretty crazy.
Oh, absolutely. It's pretty crazy.
Like, I find the is it the portrait style tattoos, like the real fine detailed portrait,
Like realism and stuff.
yeah, like that's crazy how some people are like coming up with that stuff. I don't even like the technique to even use that. I wouldn't even like, where do you start? You just do the outline and then just slowly like put all your shading in?
Sometimes not even that. I think usually watching like realistic artists work is they've got the stencil and it's got lots of lines and lots of, I don't know, just heaps of different lines and lots of stencil on there to use as like a base. And then they just start from the bottom and work their way up. So they'll do the shading, do a little bit of lines, and then they'll just keep working it up, and then the white highlights on the end and stuff like that.
When you do your anime tattoos, what's your process?
Like, like actually tattooing it?
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, usually with that, it's more like the lines are set in there first and then it's the shading. So I think that's usually the typical kind of way of approaching it, is the lines first and then you put your shading there too. And then with like your colours, obviously you do your darker colours first and then your lighter colours towards the end to avoid them kind of mixing together and staining and all that kind of stuff.
And then I guess and this is all learnt through like on the pigskin and stuff, like with your shading and stuff like that. Is that right?
Yeah, it's definitely starting, but it's not, I think, until you start actually tattooing more and more people, because that's the way you learn with tattooing is you just try, almost like, I don't want to say trial and error, but almost like.
So there's a lot of people out there right now. Look, sorry, Jam.
No, like just the more you practice on people, you just learn so much more easier compared to like on the pigskin.
All the people you tattooed that are listening, they'll start checking their tattoos.
Yeah, they're like, oh shit.
Was I one of the first? Is there any tattoo on you that you'd get rid of, that you'd change?
No, because every tattoo I've got, I think I got at a certain point of my life where I was like, yeah, I want that, and I couldn't think of getting rid of it.
Do you get tattoos to have meaning, or do you just get them because you like the design?
I started with meaning, and then I was like, that looks sick, I want that. I think my first two tattoos, I was like, oh yeah, it means this and that, and now I'm just like, oh, it looks sick.
There's that's another thing I find really interesting, like the two different arguments of, oh, what does it mean something, or is it just like really cool?
Yeah.
So do you have like different customers coming in that are like, I guess you'd hear so many amazing stories of people like for getting the tattoo, like the reason as to why.
Yeah.
Is there any story you could tell that wouldn't be like disrespectful, that you think is pretty amazing when someone was telling you why you were doing the tattoo?
I've done so many, I can't really
It's not like
pinpoint.
one specific
Yeah,
one?
no, there's been so many amazing people that I've met, and I think, I'm trying to think if there even is one that really stands out, but no, I think every meaningful tattoo that comes through is just absolutely beautiful, and I've had people cry with me, like, because of how the tattoo has become it's now on them forever, and it was just so overwhelming because it's a remembrance of someone who's passed or a pet or just a time in their lives that they want to like remember on themselves forever, which I think is absolutely incredible. And then you get, some people just want to get it because it looks cool. So it's like such an awesome balance. And I've met so many fantastic people. I'm trying to think. I met, this is kind of random, very early on, one of the other artists I was working with was tattooing a guy who did the autopsy for Carl Williams, the Melbourne drug lord. And I thought that was absolutely incredible. We all just like looked at him like, no way. And he couldn't really disclose too much information, which sucked. But, but, you meet people like that. And I've tattooed detectives. I've tattooed, who else have I tattooed? Heaps of nurses, people that work in daycare, aged care, so many different fields. It's just crazy. I've met people that do jobs that I was like, oh, I never even thought of that, like as a career, and they've fallen into it, and it's really, really cool.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to think how tattooing brings everyone together.
Yeah.
Like you get to see all different walks of life and hear these crazy stories, and then these people just go out and live their everyday life, and like every other day person just wouldn't even think about it, but you have the opportunity to like be present with all these different personalities. Like you must hear so much crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And it'd be so rewarding, I guess, like the whole experience of like putting the tattoo on them, hearing their story. Is it also like kind of draining sometimes mentally when you're like hearing these really intense stories?
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of like a psychology session while you're like putting these tattoos on?
Definitely. I think that's one strong thing I'm learning is boundaries. So obviously, people that open up to me so deeply, obviously they're comfortable, which is absolutely fantastic. But I think there is a bit of a line, and I'm starting to kind of, if there is a line crossed, it's almost like, hey, or have you thought about seeing someone for that topic, and kind of lightly move it along.
Yeah.
Because there have been times where I've had absolutely beautiful clients really open up to me about some really intense traumas or things going on in their lives. And then I end up going home and I feel kind of flat. And like I said, it's absolutely wonderful that people are so comfortable to open up. But I think there is, with tattooing, is a time and a place. And it's such a vulnerable kind of thing to go through getting tattooed. But it's definitely something that we as creatives or tattoo artists as well need to look out for, is ourselves, our mental health, and just overall health in general, because it can get intense sometimes. But I think it's just learning about the techniques and the coping mechanisms that can help us for the end of the day. So like trying to turn our brains off, because obviously as a tattoo artist, the day doesn't end after the tattoo, that's after the client's left. It's going home, doing research for the following day, or drawing until sometimes early in the morning. So it's almost, and then also you've got to get back to people and do the bookings yourself. Like some people have people that do it for them, like
personal assistants.
Yeah, assistants and stuff like that. But for me, I just do it all myself, and like a lot of people as well.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on this because I feel like pricing can range so much with tattoo artists.
Yes.
Which you kind of hit the nail on the head anyway, because you just described all the extra work that you do. So your pricing does come in with that.
Yeah.
But how do you even go about picking your price? Like as a artist yourself, do you have to like reference it off other artists and be like, well, they're charging this amount, or is it kind of like a free for all? And if it's, I don't know if even you're allowed to talk about that, but I just
no, it's all right. So it's more so the way I charge is it depends on the work that's involved. So if someone wants a big custom piece that's going to take all day, usually I'll charge them the full day rate. Sometimes people will only want a small tattoo, but because it's custom, instead of just like, some people want something straight off the internet. Like, I don't know, like for example, like a plain star. Is that
I didn't get a star, but like just the little bottle and like
yeah. Sometimes it can differ the price as well. Depending, there's just so much that comes into play with it. And that's something I've learned is to quote what you're worth. So I've had people tell me, oh, but so-and-so does it cheaper. And it's like, well, you're coming, you've literally said in your message, like, you love my work and you want to get tattooed by me. So this is how I do my pricing. And yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's such a, it's like, because you are your own individual artist, you got to be your own business as well.
Yeah.
And like trying to explain that to someone who's like, oh yeah, but they might do it cheaper. It's like, yeah, but at the end of the day, you would go, like, someone is happy to go out and pay like $5,000 for a painting, but then they're not happy to like pay a price that a tattoo artist like will put out there, if that makes sense. Like, or like another tattoo artist might do it cheaper, but the skill level might be completely different.
Yeah, exactly. So and like some people tattoo faster, some tattoo slower. Some take several hours to draw, some only take 2 hours to draw, but like it's every artist has their own, they quote what they're worth, because, and it's not only the time it takes to do the tattoo that you're paying for, but you're also paying for all these years of experience that this artist has had to do, all the, you know, the apprenticeship and all the learnings, like you're paying for that pretty much, because they've spent all these years learning to do this trade, and you're going to see them because you're happy with, you know, what they're producing. So
yeah, I feel like that's something that needs to be said, because I feel like it gets a little bit, like, people just don't think about all these things.
Yeah.
Which is why I like having these open forum podcasts, because then you can actually find out a bit more information. If someone listening, if they were to go get a tattoo and someone gave them a really crazy price, they could understand where it comes from.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Do you have like a base wage? Is it like a base rate that you have? Like, I guess your day rate, is that just a set price?
Yeah, so usually I charge a certain day rate for someone who wants to get like usually one big piece or 2 or 3 smaller pieces, usually in a day. And then I just quote based on the size of the tattoo. Like, there's all the other factors as well, like the size of the tattoo, if there's shading involved, the placement as well, because different parts of the body can be trickier to tattoo, take longer to tattoo.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So there's all that comes into play with it as well, instead of just paying for the design.
And then
pay for all the other stuff.
Do you like rent your chair out? Is that how that works in a studio?
So yeah, I pay percentage. So there's a percentage of what I earn goes to Cree, who owns Lovers and Sinners.
Shout out.
Yeah. So I think that's pretty much how most tattoo artists work, is they'll pay a percentage to the shop that they're working at. And obviously that money also gets, you know, put back into certain supplies for the shop and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, so they cover all your inks and
yeah,
stuff
so
like
usually some of the, like I said, all shops are different, but some shops, you know, it's like your basics. So we have to pay for our own needles, our own machines, any other specific equipment we like to use, but mainly some shops, you know, black ink is usually provided. We have to provide our own coloured inks. They'll provide you like a station with basics like gloves and wrappings and tapes and all sorts of things that you might need to help sterilise your section.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to be, I hope I don't sound wrong in saying this, but obviously you seem like quite a shy person. So how did you find...
Is it obvious?
No, I don't mean this in a rude way. It's just for this next question, so it kind of makes sense.
That's okay, yeah.
How did you find, obviously kind of referring back to pricing or just holding yourself as a business person, did you find it difficult to like learn and be more upfront and be like, no, this is how it's going to, like, did you ever feel like you're getting pushed around a little bit?
There've been a lot of times where I've just caved in and just said, yep, I'll do it, or yep, that's fine. And it's left me at the end of the day feeling rubbish, because I didn't set the boundary for myself, I guess you could say. It's still something I'm learning on, learning how to kind of do, because I find it very hard to, it's so easy on Instagram when people message through, because you can be like, yep, this is what it is, this is how it is, if you'd like to book, this is what you do. But, you know, there's been instances where it's face to face and they're like, oh, I didn't bring that much money, and I've just gone, oh, okay, that's fine.
So,
but it's not.
You
know, it's not like that. Was more so quite a couple of years ago. It's a lot better now. It's a lot like, this is how it is. These are the terms and conditions in which you book. And if they've got a budget, usually they'll ask for a quote before they book in. Yeah. So they've got the right amount of money aside, and then it's just usually all sweet.
Yeah,
But
I've
it's
seen a lot of tattoo artists, and they're so just straight up, like, and it seems like that from everything you just described, that's just naturally how they all go down that way, where they're like, nah, this is it, and if you don't like it, then just go.
like any business. Like I was speaking to someone about this. It's like you don't just go into. It's like going into Woolworths and your shopping comes to 100, but you call the person over and be like, "Oh no, I only brought 80." Like they're not gonna just,
That's the best analogy.
It's yeah. Honestly, we're the same, and I think because we're so like tattoo artists and other artists as well, that we're just our own business, and it's like we can't just do things for free or can't, we've got our own bills to pay. We've also got to pay for all the equipment to use to tattoo people. So.
I don't know what people think, what goes through people's heads.
Yeah,
it's like you wouldn't go into Macca's and be like, "Can we just negotiate the price on that cheeseburger,
exactly,
brother?"
Exactly.
It's like no.
No.
It's like that's the way it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. People are crazy, man.
Oh.
Someone else used that analogy about like the Woolworths thing. Like you wouldn't go into Woolies and be like, "Oh, actually, can we just like not do that?"
Let's just not do that. And no.
I was trying to think of it. There was this one instance I went into a tattoo studio and there's this one guy and then he was like super just like real aggressive. And I remember like, I think I was getting my tattoo and this chick was like trying to negotiate a price with him. He's like, no.
Oh, yeah.
And he was, I don't know, he must have been in the industry for a long time because like his reaction afterwards was so intense. I was like, holy shit.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
He was like, nah. He was like, and then and I've seen like people blow up, like artists blow up in front of everyone in the studio. I'm like, man, that's like, it must happen so often.
It's a very common, yeah. And it's hard, I think, as well, especially someone like me or like a lot of tattoo artists, like confrontation. It's pretty intense, like when someone starts arguing with you or being like, oh, I don't want to pay that much. And it's like, well, what can we do? Like,
yeah, it's like, I do want to touch on one thing that you said earlier on. Just with the bad tattoos and you said therapy, do you actually legit mean you go?
Yeah, I go to therapy.
Is that something that a lot of tattoo artists do?
Good question. Yeah, I don't know if it's common. Like, I think from the tattoo artists that I've met, I don't think it's common. I don't know if it's because they just don't want to disclose that they go and see a therapist or anything like that. But I know for me personally, therapy has been one of the best things I've ever done. It's just, I can go in there and just say what I've been feeling for the last few weeks, or we work through strategies with clients even. Like if I had a rough going with a client and I start like, I don't know, like I'm an overthinker and overanalyzer, we talk it out. And I think it's just something that's definitely helped me improve, not only as like an artist, but as like a human over the last couple of years, because it's just so great.
Did you go see a therapist before you were tattooing, or was it like once you started tattooing and like, is that where was it driving from like, I'm not saying you're doing heaps of bad tattoos, but like you kind of mentioned like that the bad tattoos would make you feel a little bit upset and you would overanalyze. Is that where it started from? Like, did you go start seeing a therapist from there? Yeah,
I think I've seen quite a therapists in my whole life growing up, just with my anxiety that I have. And the therapist I have now is absolutely wonderful. And it's just a nice kind of way to just to debrief everything that's been going on. Yeah, it's. Do
you find that your anxiety is like doing tattoos calms that down? Like, do you feel like that's kind of like a outlet for you in a way?
It can be. Sometimes if the tattoo I'm about to do is going to be a little bit trickier than what I'm used to, for example, it's a design that it's going to be a little bit trickier, or it's in a different part of the body, because some parts of the body is a bit trickier to tattoo. It can get me a bit more nervous, and you put so much like thought and concentration into what you're doing that by the end of the day you're just knackered. It has helped, but it's very conflicting, because I know once I'm doing the tattoo and I'm in my element, I'm like, hell yeah. But it's sometimes the drawing process can be quite anxious, because I'm like, are they going to like this design that I've drawn for them if it's very custom? Because what happens if they turn around and go, oh, I don't like that, and then you've got to redraw something. There's always an answer to it. like it always works out, I guess.
Yeah.
But still, there's that added stress, especially for me. I find I get really anxious that.
It's like the unknown of like not knowing what the outcome's gonna be.
Yeah,
kind of
that's
thing.
it. Yep.
Yeah, do you have any other creative outlets to deal with your anxiety and stuff like that? Or do you just watch anime?
Good question. Not so, I don't know. I play Call of Duty and
Sick.
that's probably one of the things I love to do where I don't have to worry about like drawing or anything. It's just chuck it on, play a couple hours with my husband and some friends, and we're just in our element, and it is so good because it's just turning on a different part of your brain almost. Like there's that concentration, but it's not like
It's like,
the whole working kind of
yeah, you
thing.
can just kind of like zone off and
Yeah.
just run around.
Yeah.
Because I deal with anxiety as well pretty bad.
Yep.
I'm pretty like hyperactive in the head all the time. Like I'm over analyzing.
Yeah,
Or like
absolutely.
even I would just say this, like for that question that I like went around the roundabout, I'll think about that question now for like the rest of the week.
I'm going to think of, yeah.
And I'll be like,
Yeah,
I'm like,
think
I
about
really shouldn't
everything
have
I've
asked
said
that. I shouldn't
today.
have said that. And like it's such a killer for me. It's like a good and a bad thing, like to be so hyper aware, but then I'm like overanalyze and I'm like, oh man, I really shouldn't have said that. And then but like for me, a creative outlet would be like I go take photos with my
Nice.
friends, or
Yep.
I make music, or like I don't know, I got a fair few, or I just do exercise. I find that exercise is a good
That's
way
great. Yeah.
to release that kind of stress. But by the sounds of it, for you, it's like more gaming.
Gaming, yeah, definitely. I mean, sometimes this is really hard, I find, because when I decide I'm going to draw for me, I want to just pick up, I don't know, I'm going to do some painting, or I'm going to draw something on my iPad. Like, I'm just going to draw for me. And I'll start, and then I'll be like, I've actually, this is a good story. I did a painting a while ago. Let's backtrack. And I think it was during one of the lockdowns we had. It must have been, I don't think it was that big 3-month one. It must have been like a week or something. And I was like, hell yeah, I'm going to paint this for me because I want to paint it. And I painted it, and my head immediately when I finished was like, bam, I'm going to try and sell this. And it didn't sell. And then instead of being like, hey, look at what I've accomplished, I'm like, I'm shit because I didn't sell this. You know, it's so interesting how my brain just kind of was like so stoked with what I created, but because no one wanted to buy it, or one person wanted to buy it or something like that, it made me go, oh, well, it just killed the vibe for me.
It is. It's such it's an interesting, like, it's an interesting concept. Like, it's interesting how people's brains work.
Yep.
How you can be like hell excited about something, and then one simple thing can just like ruin the whole experience. I think the biggest thing to take away from it though is how you come back from it. So afterwards,
Definitely.
after it didn't sell, were you like, oh no, that's fine? Like, did you kind of like talk yourself down and like go through a couple of strategies and then get excited again to draw?
I think it bummed me out for a while. I was just like, I find it very easy to get deflated with a lot of stuff, especially with creativeness, because I do it as a job. So, you know, but yeah, that's where therapy came in again as well.
Saved my life.
So, yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Saw my therapist quite a few times, and we worked through it. And now I'm learning, and I'm almost like, you know, it's getting there to the point of, you know, when you can associate work from pleasure, I guess you could say. So
What style do you draw when you're just drawing for yourself?
I don't even know. I think kind of more traditional, or even more like the traditional kind of flash. And I think, but then that's more for work. Usually for myself, I like to just dabble with paints, like acrylic paints. I'll just get a piece of paper out and just go, oh yeah, cool. Play around with different things and just try not to think much of it. And then eventually I end up thinking too much of it, clearly. But that's something I'm learning.
There's a lot of learning going on.
There's a lot of learning. There's a lot of learning, and it will never stop.
It never stops.
Never stops.
It never
Always
stops.
growing. It's
you always
great.
got to get better,
That's
I
it.
reckon.
That's it.
All right, there's one thing we like to do as we come towards the end of the podcast,
Yes.
and you get to shout out a local legend who you think should come on and have a chat.
Oh, okay.
Did you not? Have you seen you haven't seen the other
No,
episode?
I've seen one, and then oh my goodness. Okay.
Start to crumble.
Local legends. Okay. You know what? I'll even say my husband, because he's a qualified hypnotherapist. I would
Yeah.
I don't know if you're.
No, I'd be keen for that.
Yeah,
for sure.
He's a hypnotherapist, mind trainer, life coach. So he does a whole bunch of it. He's really fantastic with working with people that have phobias, traumas, need a bit more direction of where they're going, whether it be career or family or all that kind of stuff.
Shout out to your husband.
Shout out to husband.
Oh, he's on. All right, and there's one other thing we like to do. There's actually two. I don't know why I didn't say two. But if you could give anyone some advice, whether it be if they was starting out to be a tattoo artist or just any type of creative outlet, what would you give them? Or what would you say? Give them?
To always push yourself. Push yourself real hard. Never give up. Let the creative energies kind of flow. Don't try and force yourself to create, but push yourself. That's shit. Hold on.
Scratch that. We're going again.
Scratch that.
You got
I literally have been thinking this in my head for ages, and now I just can't think.
It happens all the time. Like people,
Shit.
There was this thing I used to do. It was like 5 fun facts. And I had to cut it away because people would be like, their brain would just start like splintering. They wouldn't know what to say. So I was like, I can't do that anymore.
Damn.
You got heaps of time.
Yeah. I've been like reciting things. What can I say?
Writing things down.
I was like, shit. Okay.
There's heaps different. There's like different quotes as well that I like to use. Yeah. There's one quote that's like embedded in my wallet. And it's like, man cannot discover new oceans unless he has courage to lose sight of the shore. And I think it's like one of the most, not profound, but like I think it's a really interesting way to like put like a motivational thing into like a quote.
Yeah.
Do you have any quotes like that you like off the top of your head?
No. Off the top of my head. I think just continue to work hard. Push yourself, and if you're thinking of getting into this industry, it's a lot of hard work, but it is so bloody beneficial, and it's so rewarding to know that there's people out there that have your work on them. And I think it's just wonderful, and it can be a bit almost daunting, especially when you have to go into a studio with your portfolio or just going in there and chatting to the artist. But honestly, the more you do it, the better it will become, and you just keep pushing through it. And
yeah, for sure. No, that's sick. I was going to ask a question, but I was like, I don't. But that's all right. Don't worry about it. All right. Well, I'm glad that we got there in the end.
Yes.
I made a few mistakes. Renae was amazing as always.
Oh, bless you. Thank you for having me.
That's all right. It's my pleasure.
I'm gonna.
All right. This has been another amazing episode of Creative Appetite. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much, Renae, for coming on and telling me your story.
Thank you for inviting me. It was a
Sorry
pleasure.
for making it a little bit awkward there with some bad questions, but we got there in the end.
We got there.
All right, gang, you know what to do. Hang around for the next episode. We out. Woo!